You are tuning into another great Beach Brothers show. Like the Beach Brothers show on Facebook, please. Subscribe to the Beach Brothers show channel on YouTube. And make sure to like, share, and comment and question inside the feed today. Let's get ready to start this show.
So look, the Beach Brothers show is a show where we deal with Virginia business and politics.
Well, I'm Conrad Chesviner. I'm a Hampton Roads political activist. Best ideas for community improvement happen to drive me.
I help folks that are approaching retirement and in their retirement years.
I have what I call the empowerment agenda. And that means that everything I do is focused on empowerment. You want to give a salute to Tally and Twine. It's time for you to have a high quality watch made in Virginia, made in Portsmouth, Virginia, from Tally and Twine. We want to say thanks to Southern Volkswagen Greenbrier for their great level of sponsorship. If you need a new car, you don't need to go far. Southern Volkswagen Greenbrier. And ladies, if you want your brows to say, wow, check out IamLitaWee.com. Microblading by IamLitaWee.com. I'm Seiko Varner. I do credit fixes, tax resolutions. I lend private money to real estate investors, and we do debt consolidations. If you need any of these services, contact me as provided. And now it's time to get beachy on the Beach Brothers Show.
Now, welcome back. And as we get nearer the holiday season, it will be quite apparent we'll be traveling. Traveling to good food, good products, gifts for folks, traveling to family and friends for parties and other cheer. Of course, the key word is traveling. And I do suggest a quality car to get you to and fro. Charlie Roy over at Southern Volkswagen can hook you up with one in time for this Christmas's travels. Head over to 1248 South Military Highway, head over to Charlie Roy, and get your one of those quality Volkswagens that will get you everywhere in this holiday season. It would be in your rational self-interest to do so. Now, in that vein, I like to move to my panel tonight toward rational self-interest. In economics, rational self-interest is the principle where our monetary decision-making helps our position. I want viewers tonight to embrace it, to think over multiple outcomes and pick more options that help your stake. I ran into this recently after a sluggish start to the job grind following the loss of my hotel front desk job. I developed a stronger feeling of disillusionment. I received one hit, Virginia Beach Parks and Rec, bringing me to interview for a clerk position, part-time. Then a week or two without word. I had a part-time position with Norfolk State already, but I needed more. Then I was given a slot for night auditor at a hotel, full-time, more money than anything previously. A great offering compared to what I had, but I took a bet on myself to wait just a little longer. I wanted a career in athletics after all, so maybe Parks and Rec could offer something else soon, and maybe Norfolk State again. And Parks and Rec did reach out for an activity center assistant leader position at the hotel rate. I interviewed for and was offered that, and in the end, I played my discretion out and took a position in a field I feel has higher pay and a better growth track. It was a risk, however. Extending time with little income, but I believe it plays my position out into greater success in the long term than, say, choosing a clerk position or a night auditor position. And in one's self-interest, long term is important and worth weighing your risks on. We see this in college football right now. Oklahoma's Lincoln Riley leaves to go to USC. Better talent and recruiting and money. Brian Kelly leaves Notre Dame to LSU. Better talent and recruiting and money. You just need to find the window to make the decision to help yourself. Don't act so confidently that you don't weigh risk, of course. We don't want any blunders. But then again, you are living your life. So it will be important to find your best way to improve your life. If you improve your life, you become in a better situation to help others. And I think that parlays in tonight's guest really well. You all know I attended Old Dominion University from 2005 to 2012, picking up a bachelor's in political science and master's in sports management. In 2008, I became a manager for the football team, stopping in 2010 to do that master's work, and even became an intern with the basketball team in 2012. So I can't hide from great liking of Old Dominion athletics. That's why it's a treat to hear from our guest tonight, and he has a great story to tell. To prepare for this show, I researched our guest profile in the Virginia Pilot, the Washington Post, and WTKR in order to learn more about our guest's creation. I reached out to my fiance, Andrea Dixon. She has a BA in psychology and an MA in human services. She is also the author of an upcoming book series, The Black Swan Mindset, to assist African Americans in reducing codependency, burnout, and PTSS to facilitate longevity with an achievable self-defined work-life balance. So I want to begin by bringing our guest on. And our guest is Fellonte Misher. Let me go right on ahead, bring him right on the screen right there. A big player at Washington, D.C.'s Coolidge High. Mr. Misher went to Old Dominion. He made his first start in 2012, carrying all the way through a storied career ending after the 2015 season. His post-collegiate career is most interesting, especially in terms of how to help various underserved communities. Mr. Misher, how are you on this great Tuesday evening?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. Now, my first real question tonight, topic-related question. Growing up in D.C., from childhood to going off to college, what would you say that is like?
Growing up in DC is, it's pretty hard. I'm from the Columbia Heights area. I grew up on a street called Clifton Street. It's and now it's going through gentrification, but at one time it was a very impoverished community. Not really looking forward to anything other than really sports. That's like the most thing you have to really kind of get yourself out of any kind of trouble. You have like, so in other neighborhoods and impoverished areas, they have gang violence. We have what we call like neighborhood beefs, where you don't join these gangs, or you don't join these neighborhoods. It's like wherever you're born at, that's what you're a part of. So you're affiliated just by being born there. Yeah, so growing up, I had that stigma that I was a part of this street thing. And then growing up, I went to a high school, went to Coolidge, which is not in the neighborhood of that I grew up in. So that was a little difficult in itself, just being a new person in a new area. But once I got to Coolidge, I met a good group of guys who were able to keep each other focused. We were able to we stayed after school. We didn't go home like what the rest of the students would go. We would stay after school till about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and just keep working on in our football craft, so we can be able to leave DC at some point. And I was able to acquire a scholarship from Old Dominion, and that's what led to ODU.
I'm a little curious about that, if you don't mind. What brought you to Old Dominion?
I got a athletic scholarship, a full ride to ODU. I performed well. I performed well my 11th grade year. I actually committed to ODU in 11th grade. So by the time I was in a senior in high school, playing my senior year, I was already knew where I was going at, and ODU ODU really kept me on the straight and narrow. Once I was committed already when I was 16 years old, basically. I just made sure I wasn't I didn't get any distractions. I want to make sure I can get out of DC and get to ODU. I had a recruiting coordinator, Keada Malloy. He's actually a DC native. He actually coaches in DC right now. He checked in on me. He checked in on me a lot of times and made sure I was on my doing what I was supposed to do, because he actually know the environment in DC. So he just kept on me and made sure I did what I was supposed to do. And that's how I got to ODU.
Random factoid, Coach Malloy actually helped me and my brother get our housing situation at ODU. He's a cool dude. Wide receivers coach, if I recall at the time.
Yeah,
Of course, now I think he then went on to become his own high school coach
yeah.
since Old Dominion. Could you touch on briefly any good and bad times you care to share at Old Dominion?
For sure. Definitely, I have to say I had loads of great times, great memories at ODU. I played a little bit my freshman year, and I basically started the rest of my career. I barely missed a snap. I think I had one game where I got injured for like a second half, but I basically played every play from my sophomore year all the way through senior year. I collected a lot of accolades. I would say most of the good things showed up in, like, sports. But I definitely had a lot of tribulations at Old Dominion. Just, coming from DC, coming from DC public schools, you don't interact with a lot of diversity. I only interact with people from DC, with Black folks from DC, and then when you get to ODU, which is a very diverse school, that culture shock, that, kind of getting to understand, different cultures, was a definitely a big trial for me. Um, I had different situations that arise with coaches that, we just didn't see eye to eye most of the time. I always felt that it was a deeper meaning from, like, some of the things I was deterred from. I had one instance where, I'm an upcoming senior. I'm one of the, I would say, one of the better players on the defensive side of the ball. Um, you know, I'm collecting accolades. I'm, a leader on the team. I'm a leader in the locker room, and I was kept from the press. I was trying to build up hype, build up, a little publicity, so I can make my transcendent to the NFL, to make some, and I felt, just like, I guess, my charisma from being from DC. A lot of things that I just, I wouldn't stand. I stood for a lot of things that, they didn't agree with, and that hindered me in, like, just talking to press, talking to coaches, talking to different things, folks like that. um I would say, the school part of it, I'm coming from DC public schools, which, if you research, is not one of the best education systems in the United States. So I didn't feel like I had the educational support, like I needed. It was a football first situation. Um, it was a football first situation, and I struggled in classes. I struggled in school, basically. Just making sure I can, I made sure that I would graduate. The number one thing that I wanted to make sure I was able to bring home to back to DC was a college degree. Now thinking back on it, I could have done it better, if I had the right support in line, but I definitely wasn't supported in that way. How you doing?
I'm doing great, brother. I'm just enjoying your story, and you
Yeah,
know, the thing, one of the things that I enjoy is you went to ODU, which they were actually unknown for football for a long period of time, and so I mean, you kind of helped make them, you helped make them gain the notoriety that they enjoy currently. So, salutes to
yeah,
you and your
appreciate that.
teammates during that time, man. But
Yeah.
one thing that you were just talking about was how the DC public school really didn't prepare you for the rigors that you faced at Old Dominion University. What were some of the challenges that you may have had as a student?
I mean, and I'm better at it now. I'm better at it now, but, reading comprehension was it's huge. Like, I can't, like, I have things that I need to study, but, like, I can read it. Like, I can know the words that it says, but to actually conceptualize it and make it make sense, to be able to do a test or write a paper, like, I don't really, it didn't make sense to me. And then, I had my attention span. I didn't have the right support in that way. Growing up through the school time. 504 plans and IEPs and different things like that would have accommodated those issues. Like, that just got passed on to ODU. So to sit down and, like, look at read a book, or, sit down and write a paper, I only got about 10 minutes, and then I'm gone. Like, my mind is gone from that. Um, I have a better understanding of, some of those trials now, but at the time, it just, like, I don't like school, which today it's funny because I love school today. You know what I'm saying? So it just, I wish I had those things in place that would have, it gave me the better support in that way.
Well, let's go a deeper dive into that, man. What have you
Yeah.
learned that has allowed you to become a better student where you actually love education now that maybe somebody can tap into who's in high school? Because, I hate school is the
Yeah.
norm in high school, in a
Yeah.
lot of high
Yeah.
schools. But, what did you
Um,
learn that can help change somebody's mentality?
but it's so hard, and especially come from where you come from. And I know we're gonna speak to it later on my experience overseas and stuff like that. But that experience abroad, like education is like a global thing. Like, and if you go outside of the United States, you would understand how important it is. And then like just understand like things aren't the way they are just because like that's just what's going on. Like it's a history. It's like, so once you understand, like I love understanding why things are the way they are now. So like it intrigues me to figure out more things. And then like if I don't know things, it just like excites me. Like, oh wow, because I thought I had this all figured out, and I don't, and it's all this here still. And
Wait, wait,
it's
wait,
like a
wait, wait.
scavenger hunt.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait, wait, wait. You're excited now when you realize that you don't understand things.
Yeah, yeah, that used to be frustrating at one point. At one point, it used to be frustrating, but like the idea that there is more to know, that there is more to help me understand my situations and my feelings, my emotions. Um, you know, I'm excited. I wanna understand. I wanna know why, folks, from my community aren't able to articulate their best. I want to understand, and these are things that I experience daily, but I have no clue of how why it's that way. These are some of the things I encounter as like negative situations, like, oh, you can't articulate yourself, and I'm like, well, in my community it works, but like in the world it doesn't. And like I didn't even know that, like there's a whole nother aspect to this. So it just, and then it's different things too, that it just excite me about just not knowing.
That's intriguing. You said in our community it works, but outside it doesn't. But then
Yeah.
the question arises, does it really work in our community if, part of the mission that you're on is fighting for better black mental health and for a
Yeah.
better community experience? So that's intriguing. So
Yeah.
in many ways, many of us have developed the belief that lack of communication serves us better. The
Yeah.
inability to communicate serves us better. Can't nobody tell me nothing. We actually
Yeah.
think that's a good thing.
No, no, because I mean, and it's a stigma that I hope to kind of disrupt, because like when you're able to articulate yourself, we are able to, like, as a, like, we are in the community, especially in DC community, red line communities, and there's different things that are happening. But when we can't explain what's actually happening, because we can't put the vocabulary to it and the concepts to it to make it understandable, we won't receive the services that we need. And so when you're able to like focus in on being able to articulate, and tell what your experiences are, and sometimes in slang, and I understand like colonialism, and I'm not saying to like there is a specific way to talk. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying in that way. I'm saying more in actually articulating how you feel and how, and what's going on, so you can actually come and get services and come and get the things you need, to better serve your communities. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, for
I
sure.
love that insight.
For
I
sure.
definitely love that insight. I kind of bum rushed in. So this is a combination show, the Beach Brothers show, which is good brother Conrad and I and brother Jose. And
Yes,
also
sir.
I have a show called Get on Code. And Get on Code is focused on empowerment. So you're streaming today. This is a multi-stream where
Yeah.
semi, what is it, broadcasting both on Get on Code and the Beach Brothers show. And Get
Oh,
on Code, we
awesome.
focus on empowerment. And so I want to
Yeah.
ask a empowerment laced question very quickly, man.
Go ahead.
Um, The Washington Post most recently stated a football player couldn't find a therapist who understood black urban trauma, so he decided to become one. And I don't want to go into that part of the story yet because I know Brother Conrad is going to tap into that a little later on.
Yeah.
But the fact that you made a intentional decision to become something that you didn't see,
Yeah.
and let me repeat that part. You became something you had not seen. You became something you were not exposed to, you had not experienced before. What mentality shift had to happen for you to be able to see, become what you had never seen before?
Um, for sure. And I know I'm sorry, Conrad, because I was going to speak to it, but so I went to Poland. I told you I went. So I went there. I went to Poland, and COVID hit when I was in Poland, and I only had been in Poland maybe a month and a half at this point, and COVID hit, and I literally was locked in my room basically for 20 days. With like I can't go home, I can't go back home. I don't know anybody here, and at one point I'm literally going crazy. Like I never been to jail. I never been isolated like that in my life, and I practiced some mindfulness, and that was able to get me through it, and I was able to get through to it. But then, I when I got back home, and Sangeeta Prasad, she's a co-founder of In the Streets, and me and her, we she's a clinical psychologist actually. She's specialized in generational trauma, and me and her had a lot of conversations, about mental health and about mindfulness and just about the life experience. And you know, I went to intakes with different therapists, and they always try to put this like, and when I'm saying not binary black and white, but like black and white as like the colors, like as the written, like oh, peer pressure made you do this, not contributing, different unseen constructs in the world. And you don't understand that as like, in my community, it's not super prevalent that you talk about like internalized oppression and systematic oppression, and like understanding what that actually is. And when you kind of break that down, and the person feel understood in that way, that like some folks can't understand things. And there's that argument that like that these things exist and these things don't exist. But when that person actually experienced them, they're able to relate to it. So I'm like, I won't be able to go out and find one. That's what I had came up at one point. Like I can't find nobody, and I understand this concept. I understand that there is something here that is not able to be saw. It's felt, and you have to feel it because you have to experience it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when someone comes to me and talk to me about it, or I go to talk to somebody else who feels it, I can now process these emotions better. When yeah.
Wow, I love your answer. Did Sangeeta Prasad at ODU, who stated that minority communities don't trust therapists, and it's partially for a good reason. And I don't want to bring up the rest of the quote because I think you did a really great job of stating it, implying it in your statement. But how much did that type of conceptual instruction at ODU also give you a foundation for realizing that there is generational trauma and there are hidden forces that we have to kind of deal with?
So Sangeeta, I didn't meet her at ODU. That's like a little further down in the line in my life. Um, but what I can say at ODU, when I kind of get a little understanding of it, is I think like the whole idea of just like folks thinking that this is like I'm an athlete, I'm a football player, that like these are ideas that are put in the world, that this is the only way that you can come out of your situation, that you can have a happy life. You get what I'm saying? Like a lot of times, like if people from my community, we only got a few different ways that we think that we can enjoy being like we can be happy living, and that's becoming a athlete, that's becoming a rapper, or like some type of celebrity in some sense. But kind of connection to that is just like that internalized oppression that, you fit into these ideas that you didn't think of yourself, that they were put in the air much before you were here. And, and it is that generational trauma. It is that generational effect of like, my dad liked sports, and my dad said that this is the way to go, and that's what I'm going to do. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like the generational aspect of it, that I can correlate from ODU.
If you don't mind, I want to touch it a little bit more because you touched on life experience. Post ODU, you've actually had a great chance to travel abroad and then come back and then travel abroad and then come back, work in many different fashions. Were you able to tap into your passions and help the community based on your work post college?
For sure. Post college, once I left college, and I'm not sure if that's what you're asking me right now to kind of articulate about like after college experience.
Yes.
Yeah. So after college, you kind of get that like that harsh understanding, like, okay, what's next here, and like you didn't really do what you didn't live up to your potential in college. Like you didn't go there and learn exactly what you did. You went there and played sports, but I didn't learn anything, through college. So I'm back in DC. I'm working foundation construction, which is basically back breaking work. You breaking a hole in the wall and you putting the wood in the wall. You doing that for however many years you live, and then you're done. I did that, and I just felt like there was more to do, and I knew that folks coming behind me were going to do the same thing. They're coming and do this because like I preach you need to get on the field, you need to work out, you need to get ready so you can go to college, so I preached it. So I know the folks that's coming behind me is doing the same thing, and I was able to go overseas because I got laid off a few times with that work. That work is like if it's raining, you're gone home. If it's no work to do, you're gone home, no pay. It just wasn't anything there for me. But once I came back from Italy, I was able to land a paraprofessional job, and that's like basically assistant teaching. And I was working in a self-contained classroom, which is special education. You had about 8 kids. You're in that classroom all day. And my goal was to kind of work with the families because I went to a school, Tubman Elementary is right in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I know most of the families. By that point, most of my elementary classmates and friends growing up are having kids now. So I'm like supporting their kids and, them. And I thought I was going to be able to, kind of make an effect on like different families, but I'm locked in this room. And then so I joined a group, an equity-based group, and we had many conversations just around different things, different inequities in the school as well as outside of the school. And then I led those groups. So after being a part of those groups, the next year I still did the same job, but I facilitated those meetings at that point, and kind of just hearing the things that the teachers would share, and it was a diverse group. It was a diverse group of different administrators, teachers, parents, and people who have relationships to the school, and they shared just like kind of the different inequities. And I brought a lot to light of folks actually growing up in that system, in that education system. So. That experience, just drove me through, and especially in that equity group, I met Sangeeta Prasad in that school-based equity group.
Now, before I touch on coaching and teaching, because I think you have been doing that for a good minute of time too, and you have a good experience on that. I do want to throw up here that we have a good comment from Joshua Dyson. Great interview so far. Good on. And then he asked a question. What are signs that one may suffer from generational trauma? I think a later question might sort of harp on some specifics on that, but any initial thoughts on what are signs that one may suffer from that?
For sure. First of all, internalized oppression. When you, I'm gonna say for some of the folks, and I hope we back home in DC are listening. When you say that you are a stepper, or you like are, or like you involve yourself in violent activities, you involve yourself in criminal activities, and you feel good about it. Like it's like the thing that it makes you feel good to involve yourself in these things, to you expecting there's a good chance you go to jail. There's a good chance you die young. That's what you're experiencing, those traumas that been passed on, because generational trauma is basically in essence just I can give an example. Actually, an example that I give, and I always give this example, is I always start this example with the GI Bill 1945. During that time, they just left the World War II. The GI Bill was passed. At that point, it was Jim Crow laws that were in place that black veterans weren't able to reap the benefits. So folks were enlisting to the army at 18 years old, which is your great great granddad will enlist to an army at 18 years old, go through that war, which is the World War II, which is one of a lot of loss, a lot of traumatic things. And this is just an example. It goes further back, but this is an example. A lot of loss, a lot of things you see in those things. Boom, you don't reap the benefits of the GI Bill, which are funds to get education, funds to get therapy, funds to get and repair your mental health, funds to get housing. You don't get any of those things. You get thrown back into the marginalized community, just like DC. Boom. All right, so now and then you go through the time. You got different things that the folks put in the community, such as drugs, and you trying to do your best because you really don't have nothing. My great granddad only knows the war, so he didn't pass anything to me. So all I know is what's here on the streets, and the thing on the street is drugs, and I'm gonna do my best to try to make a way for my family. But you get caught with these drugs, you're gonna send your dad away. So now you're being raised by just your mom, and you don't have a guidance growing up as a man. I'm assuming Joshua Dyson is a man, and you growing up without that guidance, and like what is the best way to make a happy living for myself, because your dad is gone, and most of your friends' dad is probably dead or gone too, and you're going to do the same thing that you heard that he did, and then you do that thing, and then you'd have a son, and you don't have any skills or anything like that, so you're going to pass that to your next child. And that's kind of the generational trauma in like essence, but it's many other realms: internalized oppression, systematic oppression, and other realms just that contributes to the generational trauma.
And I think we can sort of unpack the topic of generational trauma. And I have a couple of questions I think might be able to help on that.
For sure.
The first one, toxic stress. Adverse childhood experience, or ACE, assesses and counts potentially stressful and harmful situations in a person's childhood. So constantly moving, food insecurity, living in low-income areas, the school-to-prison pipeline, personal traumas, and other things can contribute to loads and loads and loads of toxic stress. So what's your experience with something like toxic stress, and could you parlay that into thinking that many in the African American community actually suffer from it in silence?
Yeah, for sure. Listen, so the thing is that thing that you feel like, and I know I'm not the only one to feel it, because I'm sure this is what it is. When you feel like there's a good chance, like, when I go outside, I gotta bring my gun, because there's a good chance I'll probably get shot today. That's that toxic stress that, like, you're not in like a beef or anything. You're not in any confrontation, but there's a good chance I go to jail or I die today. And that's an everyday thing. That's that toxic stress. And I can relate it down to, like, as a child, you feel that the sense of so in my experience, in my special education setting, I was in a pre-K class. I seen 3 or older. They're building guns. They're recreating traumatizing experience with toys. And those things, you hold those inside you. Those don't just go away. Those are things that need to be unpacked and processed of why do you think that's that way. And and just feeling unsafe. I think in essence, that toxic stress is just feeling unsafe all the time. And kids, even kids, and you think they're out there playing on the playground and everything's all fun and things like that, but it's internalized inside them when they get home. And it's no meal there tonight. And so when I get to school, I need to make sure I eat. And if someone else has a plate, I might take their plate because there's a good chance I don't eat tonight. And all these things incorporated together is kind of that toxic stress that just prevails through your time of living.
Hmm. Intriguing. Uh, Toxic stress, generational trauma. And so your team disrupts generational trauma in DC by supporting, training, mentoring, and hiring the community members. Uh, Tell us a little bit about that, and then we're going to go backwards to how we got to this point.
Okay, yeah. So we focus on disrupting generational trauma. So we acquire our clients and our participants from the community. We think there's 3 realms of getting this done, which is mentoring, which is mental health aspect. And I don't like to say the word therapy because the stigma isn't broken around that yet. So repairing mental health and physical health. Um, right now, one, two, three. We have two employees. We hoping to hire a third employee, but we want to employ folks who have skills. So like plumbers, other vocationary skills like that. We want to employ you. We don't want to employ you to go and do the work, do plumbing. No, we want to employ you to have the capacity to be able to teach other folks in your community these skills. Get what I'm saying? So now that's kind of what I that's the luxury I have. So I am employed through a nonprofit. So now I have the capacity because I was teaching and doing this work at the same time, but I can't show up the best because of lesson planning and different things like that. Then trying to also work and do these things. But if we are able to raise money to hire you with the skill to train other people in that skill, that's a way of just hiring the community members and training them up. But the other aspect is the mental health, physical piece. We have in our community high rates of hypertension. You got different traumas, and that like traumas that I can say is like say for instance, some folks, and I got a relative who they was a victim of gun violence, got shot in the hand. The hand doesn't open up no more when my disability from this traumatizing event reoccurs every day from my uh lack of rehabilitation, my lack of physical therapy to be able to get the function back in my hand makes me relive that trauma every day. So we incorporate yoga. One thing that my yoga teacher Azra talks about is men we hold stress in our neck and our back, and that just acquires from that toxic stress syndrome I was talking about earlier. Also, and women hold stress in their hips. This is the ongoing thing that we need to disrupt against. So that's where we get into the yoga. That's when we get into the physical activity, the fitness part of it, because that's an ongoing process. You won't ever be in a situation where you can like you've done enough fitness or you've done enough physical work. So that's kind of what we do. We have 3 rounds. We wanted your yoga, your physical health, then you have your mental health, which is therapy, unconventional and conventional. I try to do a lot of unconventional therapy. We're trying to get art therapy up, group therapy, guided journaling, different things like that. So it's not you laying on the couch with a person talking to you about your issues. you are able to express it and unpack those problems in unconventional ways. So those are three. That's our goal, and that's how we try to disrupt generational trauma.
Man, that's beautiful. I love what you're
Yeah,
doing. It looks like you're starting to get a
right.
lot of notoriety and coverage for what you're doing. So I just want to say, keep what you're doing. I do have another question I
Yeah.
want to follow up on, and that question is, all right, you co-founded InTheStreets.org.
Yep.
Tell us that story.
So I'm a co-founder with Sangeeta Prasad and Latoya Walker. 'Cause Latoya Walker is also a community member that is hired now. That's a part of our staff. Um, so like I told you, we were in a Kindred, which is another nonprofit. And they get groups of like parents and teachers, and we do dialogue sessions. We did dialogue sessions about school-based inequities. You know, my first one was in 2018 when I came back from Italy, and I started my first time when I was doing the assistant teaching. Um, so I went to the school because I wanted to help the families because I know the families and I want to work with them in the school building because I know that's the place where I know I'll see them. But within my role, I was stuck in a room. I was stuck, but like my kids, had some severe mental disabilities that I had to be with them the whole day. So I just like felt like I don't have a way to really get to the families that I thought. And then this group Kindred was brought to the school. I joined it. We did dialogue sessions where we had deep conversations with a diverse group about various different things and inequities within the school building. Latoya was also in that group. Sangeeta Prasad, she was a facilitator of that group. So the next school year, Sangeeta came to me and a couple of other my colleagues, um, and then she wanted us to facilitate these groups. So I facilitated the group the next time. So I'm not necessarily a part of the dialogue. Now I'm kind of like guiding folks, bringing folks in to speak to topics, creating space and just like managing the conversation, which was a big step because like I told you, I wasn't really confident in my speaking voice. I feel I'm a little more confident now, but you talked about 4 years ago. I was not like I'm a DC boy. I talk with a lot of slang and I don't pronounce all my words and things like that. And I got better, but at that time I was really, insecure about that. And Sangeeta, we met like every morning before those meetings, and we just talked about the things, and I just felt confident. And once I finished that, it was a great thing. So boom, I went to Poland. I left because the budget wasn't fitting for my position, and I wasn't gonna have that job next year, and the opportunity to play football was here. So I was like, let me go play again. And then I'm gonna go play again and not, but
Get the
then
money.
COVID hit though. COVID hit like right in the middle of that, like right during that season. So I had to come back home. So I quit my job in the school, and I'm just like home now. And then Sangeeta, she reached out to me. She reached out to Latoya. Through the pandemic, we just met weekly, just talking about the different things. And through the summer, the last summer before I left to go to Poland, and like coming up into the 2020 year, through COVID, I lost about eight folks, that I work with, young folks under the age of 22, about eight of them within a year, um, to gun violence, and we just talked about those things like why is it happening so much, what's going, like, what are some of the things and we just kind of talked about those things, and we developed, like, we came to the topic of internalized oppression, systematic oppression, and generational trauma. Me feeling like, that I have no other option other than these things that has been presented in front of me. You get what I'm saying? And so we talked about those things. We were able to get certified, with our accreditation and different things like that. I started teaching again. I started teaching third grade last school year, not this school year, not this current school year, but last school year I started teaching third grade. So we're still developing in the streets. Me, Sangeeta, and Latoya still developing in the streets. But we started working with some folks. We did Zoom session for the yogas. We did Zoom meetings. We brought folks in who specialize in financial literacy and different helpful aspects. And we had presentations with our participants. But I was still doing that while doing school, and that was just super stressful. It was really hard. And then we were able to we acquire some private funding. Sangeeta actually acquired some private funding to be able to hire me as the first employee to be able to do this work full time. So at the end of the school year, I became the industry's first employee while also being, founding the organization and also enrolling into my master's program. So currently, I'm in my role at Industries, and I'm working on my master's at Simmons University at the moment.
I
And
say
so
that.
yeah,
I
and
say that.
we got our space finally. Like I think I started in May. We got our space in June, and we kind of been working out of there since June. And we've been doing what we can.
Excellent. Well, this conversation started off on as a part of the Beach Brothers, and then as I shared with you, it was being simulcast on Get on Code. Get on Code has two capstone questions that I want to ask that might take us in a bit of a different direction. But after we ask those two questions, then we're just going to be Beach Brothers hard on the way out. So hopefully you're ready for these. I know that we didn't necessarily prepare you for these,
Yeah,
but we focus on empowerment. And with our focus on empowerment, one of the things that we find is that you may have to do something different. So,
yeah.
what do you intentionally do differently than the preceding generations?
Intentionally. Oh goodness, I do everything intentional movements. I intentionally listen to different music. That's one thing. I grew up off of go-go music. Go-go kind of slowed down in DC. And so I got into the rap thing, and I was deep in the rap. I love trap music. I love the DC rap scene and all the up and coming rappers. I love it. But those messages and those things are subliminally put in the music. And so when I put it in my ear and I'm listening to it, I don't like. One thing I actually had, I don't mind sharing this because I had a situation that arose, where I had a girlfriend and I lied to her, and and she was like, "Why are you lying to me?" And I'm like, in my community, I'm taught to, like, I can lie to a woman, but I can't lie to a man. But I'm like, and I thought about it. We talked about it. I'm like, no one's ever told me that. No one said that to me to me. I heard that in the music. All the stepper, all the violent things that folks do, they hear it, and I hate it because it's like, it's a culture. Yes, it's a culture, and I love it. But folks in the rap community, we are dying at high amounts and going and being incarcerated from doing the exact things that are in the rap lyrics. So I intentionally don't listen to the rap music on. I support my folks that are rappers, and I listen to it when I go out and party. But when I'm in my personal and I'm trying to, like, calm, and I'm trying to listen, I'm trying to read, or I'm trying to do work, I intentionally don't listen to rap music because I just don't want to hear those messages. I just don't want the messages in my head. Um, another thing that I intentionally do, I intentionally, use certain languages like peace. Like, I don't say bye. Like, I don't say bye to no one, because when I hear bye, that means I'm never gonna see you again. You know what I'm saying? Bye is forever to me. I intentionally say peace. I want peace to be upon you, and I want you say it back to me. So I intentionally say things just to kind of break down some of those subliminal internalized things that I have in myself. So those are two things. And there's a loads of other things. When I want to feel good, when I want to feel happy, when I'm not feeling too good, I wear bright colors. If you guys look at my Instagram, I got like a lot of bright colors on. I intentionally put those clothes on because it makes me feel better. It makes, like, my favorite color now at one point was purple because I had like a whole tie to it because of, you know, some traumas that was built in me. But every time I see the color, it makes me feel those traumas. But when I look at yellow, yellow is I actually like the Pittsburgh Steelers, so that brings me joy. And I actually like just the bright vibrance of the color, and it just makes me feel good. So I wear a lot of yellow. I get my phone case. I want it yellow. I wanted a bright color. I wanted something, you know, that makes me, you know, happy. You know what I'm saying? And I just do a lot of intentional movements to bring myself some calmness and some peace.
I show you that, and that's peace, and that's peace. All right, so the last capstone. What are a few things that need to change in the world?
For sure. I would say the stigma around mental health. Like, I'm gonna give you one example before I really go into it. So Saturday, me and my friend, and he's also working with us at industry. His name is Aaron Young. We just went to a yoga and go-go experience. It was at the UPO in Washington D.C. in Southeast D.C. I was out there. It's me and him, and it's all young girls out there. And I see the men, they're around, you know, it's probably their daughters and stuff like that, but they're like, looking at, it's the stigma around mental health is that like you're kind of soft, that you want to explore your emotions and break down those traumas, and and do yoga and do those things. And if we can disrupt that stigma, you get that out the way. Like your body it's a body first. Before it becomes a male or a female, it's a body, it's a person. So all those muscles and all those things that are affecting you, one thing are affecting you are actually an effect on your mental. So if you can't process like some of the uncomfortable areas in your body that you can break down those traumas, then you're limiting yourself to not being able to process and be a little, be a much happier person. Kind of lost my train of thought right there, but yes, I would say the stigma around mental health is something that needs to be changed, especially in the Black community. I understand therapists, and I understand why that is the case, and so that's a whole trial. That's why I want to become a therapist, to be able to try to change that stigma in that way. But that's like further down the line. But mental health in itself, meditating, yoga, expressing your emotions, crying. It's okay to cry. It's good to cry. You are a better person once you cry. You're not softer because you cry. You are stronger once you cry. And those stigmas, and just around that, for sure.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure. And that's peace. Man, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Brother Conrad, man, take us to success.
Take this here to six. First, I start off by mentioning, of course, my lovely fiance Andrea Dixon wants to know: are those vitamins behind you?
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
No, I have horrible allergies. It's allergy medicine. My allergies, like I got like almost all day, I'm blowing my nose because I have like cerebral allergies.
Same here.
Yeah, I'm move those. Sorry, let me cover this up. I got flowers over here, so it's better.
It's okay. Weirdly, right over my shoulder here is actually the biography to Coolidge. So it's interesting that you went to Coolidge High School. So I'm never thinking about what's behind us.
Yeah. Oh, we got who we got right here. We got the guy right there. So that's Martin Luther King Jr. right there. So we got different things around us.
I'm trying to do my weatherman where I'm trying to be like the green screen. It's not a green screen. Right here, autobiography to Malcolm X. So
there we go. Look. Oh, where's my guy at? There he is, right there. Malcolm X, right there in the cut. Those my guys, man. We're trying to get the agenda going. We've been trying to get it going.
You mentioned a couple times about barriers within the community, and you've seen it yourself, you've lived it. Could you touch on more than just stigmas? Are there other barriers in the communities to bringing people to embrace mental health?
For sure, for sure. I mean, and they touched on this in an article. You can't even if the stigma was changed, say the stigma wasn't there and people wanted therapy, you can't even get a therapist. I can honestly share the screen and show you like 3 emails showing my case is too severe, like too severe case to take on at this practice. And and like in my intake process, like I'm a pretty private guy. I don't really just go out. Like I kind of got to gain my trust to really just throw my things out there at you. And I know I have a platform now, so I'm kind of throwing my things at you now. But like coming up in this, I'm not really. I didn't really share much. Like I think I shared that my dad was killed at 5 years old, and DC public school. Like I'm not really sharing like the robberies I experienced. I'm being robbed. Being jumped. I'm not even sharing those things yet. I haven't got there yet. And they're telling me that these are 2 severe cases when I haven't even shared anything severe in my community yet. Like in my community, like this is regular. Having your dad die at a young age, that's pretty regular. You know what I'm saying? So there is barriers in just like the in the medical field. You can't really get the services, even if we wanted them. Even if we wanted the service, we can't even get them. So that's another barrier in itself. Um, Access to physical spaces. Like there's many gyms. We're in Washington D.C. There's 1,000 gyms. I can't afford none. I can afford Planet Fitness, which doesn't give me many resources to do different things. And those gyms are overcrowded because this is the only gym that I can go to. You know what I'm saying? So they're overcrowded. So that's another barrier. I can't even explore the things that I would need to kind of break down some of those traumas in my body. So I don't have access. I don't have access to just anything that I would need to kind of even if I wanted that help, I couldn't even get it. You get what I'm saying? So that's definitely a barrier for sure.
I'm probably gonna butcher paraphrasing a meme I've seen on Facebook,
Go
where
ahead.
something along the lines of we just blankly sort of think of PTSD in the vein of something like fighting in a war, but we never actually were supposed to see stuff like this growing up just at home. That is itself another way that we could feel various forms of traumatic stress, to which you've probably personally have experienced, but you could also associate with others who have, and you could help break down that barrier to be
Yeah.
very proactive. For instance, I'm glad you already mentioned that you are a third grade teacher and that you have dabbled in coaching. I would like to think that you would probably get back into that because that's another great
Yeah,
way to reach into people's minds to be both the leader, but get them to believe that they can lead themselves.
for sure.
So,
Yeah.
um, are teaching and coaching, is that something you would also like to bring to in the streets?
Yeah. Coaching. I'm definitely getting back into coaching as soon as I can. I took this year basically to kind of be a fan, which I'd never been because I was either playing or I was coaching. This year I was able to be a fan, and I just, I'm called to it. I understand it so much, and I just want to be able to mold and craft those young athletes' minds and give them that sense of drive, that sense of resiliency. One thing that I express to like a lot of my participants and a lot of my folks I work with is this is a phrase: we're fine. Don't matter what's going on, we always have a shot as long as we're competing. Whatever we can do, we're fine. We're fine. Just keep working. And I want to instill that. I want to instill that into the folks that I work with. Also, in teaching and coaching, it goes hand in hand. I wanna be able to remove that stigma around education, and that is not that such a it is those disparities in our education system that makes these things such hard things to gain. But once you if you have that we're fine memory mentality, you can break through those barriers and become well educated and understand the different things that are going on. And I want to bring that to light. And so, teaching, I want to implicitly just put some of those things, because I looked at curriculums now, and those implicit things, those things that are incorporated in the curriculum, mold our minds to the generational trauma. Like if you read a book about black people, it's most likely going to be an African book. And if you look at the African book, it's from a African little town that's super poor, that doesn't have the ability to keep itself up, so they need some help from someone else. That's what the African book. And if you look, those are just subliminal messages. Like until I was older, until I was about 20, I didn't know. I thought Africa was a place that just like land and animals and things like. I didn't know that like they have actually functioning communities over there. And that's just things that just subliminally are taught to you. You don't really have another option to find that out. So definitely in disrupting that trauma, teaching, coaching, molding our minds, molding our youth minds is super important.
As you can tell that you had at the ready a good saying that you learned from coaching: "We're fine."
Yeah, we're fine.
And that is something that sticks with you. You may have heard it when you were younger, and now it's sort of like a life motto. I bet you will know this one too. Play the next play.
Play the next play. Yeah.
Coach Wilder said that all the time.
Yeah. Play the next play. Yeah.
It's very similar. It's just composure, I guess, is the lesson to learn of that. You're okay. Something fell apart here, but you control how you respond to it, and it's very important. So if you bring that to your coaching and you bring that to your teaching, you're already helping out in great matters. I'm also curious if you Monday might want to sort of partner in the streets with like DC public schools.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. We definitely are trying to incorporate an after school program to push into those school buildings, create some programs that we can incorporate peer mentoring. So the peer mentoring piece, I think, is super important because it brings the whole school together. So I'm thinking 11th and 12th graders would be paired with like a 10th and 9th grader to be able to, and they would all be receiving the same services, but you would have guidance. There's a good chance most of the schools in DC PS that they don't have a dad. They don't have or a parent situation is not really stable at the moment. To have someone in the building that is connected to you and you guys are working together to come out of this situation makes you feel so much more secure. Also, we want to have at least 2 days of physical wellness every time, whether that's yoga or whether that's some sort of fitness activity. We want to have that incorporated into the after school program. They're actually moving some of the they're actually getting away from a lot of PE and DCPS. And I want to be able to bring some of that back in some ways. And I don't think in DCPS they understand how important the physical wellness part of like school, how important that is. And then the third thing is unconventional therapy. So bringing that art therapy in, bringing that group therapy in, bringing those guided journal sessions into those spaces is super important. So hopefully soon in the future, in the streets will be able to be incorporated into all of DCPS schools for sure.
I think you can do that in the suburbs of DC as well. There's also plenty of universities around in both Maryland and Virginia. You could partner with in that as well. I think there is a lot of growth for something that is so greatly needed that you're able to provide. And on that vein, I want to again throw it to Andrea Dixon. And this is sort of like the wrap-up question that I would have. I'm going to phrase it as, now, Mr. Misher, I'd like to give you the chance to give us all the information we need to keep up with you and in the streets efforts. How do we stay in contact? How do we help? How do we get in contact with the organization?
First point of contact is our website. We inthestreets.org. You go on inthestreets.org. You can get to our donation bracket. You can contact us. You'll have my email, have my phone number on there. And then we have in the street at in the streets _, which is our there. That's our list of folks who work with in the streets. Our address, our number, our company email 1800inthestreets@gmail.com. If you want to donate, if you want to contact us, that's a great contact info. So inthestreets.org is perfect. If you want to contact me directly, my Instagram name is @locked-in .fail24 @locked-in.fail24. You can contact me directly. And I also told you our In the Streets account is @inthestreets_. And you can reach out to all of us. I do want to bring light to all the folks that work with In the Streets. Sangeeta Prasad, she's a professor at GW. She's a clinical psychologist. She specializes in generational trauma. We got Aaron Young. He's right now our logistic coordinator, but he's actually day to day finding more information on this on generational trauma and how we can better serve in that way. We have Azra, who's our wellness director. He does all the yoga. He leads all the yoga programs and physical therapy programs and things like that. And we have Latoya Walker, who is another co-founder. And she's our director of community outreach, and she works directly in the community with the folks that we serve, and, as well as with me.
That's great.
So,
great.
Yes, sir.
Well, I want to personally thank you, Mr. Misher, for coming on tonight to not just talk about growing up and not just talking about football, but life after football and how you can help bring a way to eradicate the barriers that we touched on as well. You're instrumental in that. And I not only do I want to thank you for coming on the show, I want to thank you for being that person to your community around DC and both Maryland and Virginia. So I am going to hope that you have a great evening and with a wonderful holiday season as well. Do you have any final little comments you want to slip in?
Finally, I just want to say to all the folks who tuned in, definitely we got to be the change that we want to see. And that's kind of the motto that we In the Streets are taking. We got to be the change that we want to see. So like the things that we need, we might got to be those things. You know what I'm saying? So thank you, comrade. Thank you, Sicko, or Mr. Varner. I want to make sure I said his name right. Yep, Mr. Varner. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for allowing me on your platform to kind of share out our what's going on in DC. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much as well. I'm going to bring you off the screen tonight, but again, thank you, and I just hope you have a great night tonight.
All right, cool. You have a good one.
Thank you. Now, this has been another great Beach Brothers show. Like the Beach Brothers Show page on Facebook. Subscribe to the Beach Brothers Show channel on YouTube to stay tuned for future episodes and catch up on past ones to stay in the loop. We're going to begin to close out right about now.
It's never too early or too late to plan for retirement. Let me show you how to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your assets from loss due to catastrophic decisions that may affect you the rest of your life. Please call me.
This show was brought to you by Positive Vibes Incorporated, our consulting services. We do credit fixes, we do tax resolution, we lend private money, and debt consolidation. So if you need some of these services, we're waiting here for you. Credit fixes, tax resolutions, private money, and debt consolidation. Make sure you call Positive Vibes Incorporated.